we have with us Seth Watkins, who is going to be our presenter in our DSM Discovery Group on April 21st. Seth is going to speak to us about and lead us in a conversation around stewardship, economics, productivity, and the environment, a farmer's perspective. And Seth, I like the tagline that you added to that topic, why we need clean water, healthy soil, and happy cows. Now, Seth, you're the fourth generation to care for your family's heritage farm near Clarinda, Iowa, where you raise beef cattle, corn, hay, oats, and various cover crops. We know that you're passionate about stewardship. You've done a lot of work in this area. You're passionate about water quality, the restoration of our prairie, our woodlands, and our riparian areas, which I was glad for your helpful definition of that. Riparian areas, you helped us understand, was where land meets water, such as wetlands, a river, or a lake. Then you also told us that these are important for filtering the water, and they are also critical wildlife habitats, both areas that are very critical to our environment here in Iowa. And we know that you believe that when we have a healthy, diverse landscape combined with the values of inclusion, equity, and accessibility, you know that we can accomplish anything when we have those important pieces in place. So your farm is Pinhook Farm in Clarinda. And on April 21st, you told us that you're going to lead us in an exploration of how academic institutions, governments, and the industry privilege commodities over our land, our people, and our natural resources. You described how prevailing practice can prevent farmers from trusting their instincts on the sustainability of current methods that are being used in agriculture, and the transformation that can happen when healthy practices are implemented. You also made an important point when you described how agriculture is both an art and a science. And so as we look forward to our meeting, we want to ask you a couple questions and get your perspective. And by the way, we are very glad for you to be with us today, and also for agreeing to join us on the 21st. Let us learn from you.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here, and I'm anxious to see what kind of questions you're going to ask me.
Okay. Well, here goes. So tell us, how do academic institutions and governments in the industry, how do they, as you say, privilege production of commodities over our land and our people and our resources? What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone does that on purpose. I think that we've developed some incredible technology in agriculture in terms of chemicals, pesticides, antibiotics that have allowed us to be very, very productive. We've raised yields that our grandparents never would have dreamed possible. But the sad thing within this system is sometimes those giant yields and that incredible production we have kind of masks our ability to see the other side of it, which in this case, these yields have come at the depletion of our soil. They've come at the cost of our water, where we see, just in the rivers running through Des Moines or anywhere in Iowa, where we see excess levels of nitrogen and other farm chemicals that don't belong in there. And I think that, I guess the best way I could describe this, you mentioned that I'm on a heritage farm. My great-grandfather Shambaugh established the farm I'm on in 1848. And Iowa until then had been this vast prairie for, in our case, in the southern Iowa Drift Plains, hundreds of thousands of years. And over time, our soil with that prairie and that beautiful ecosystem, we had 20 to 24 inches of this incredible A horizon of topsoil that is, that's Iowa's most valuable resource when you look at what we've done as a state. And to the people, talking about technology maybe not always being a good thing, Mr. Deere's plow allowed us to break that prairie. And it seemed like what a great opportunity. We can be so bountiful, and we're going to feed this growing world. And there's just one inconvenient fact with that, is that since we first laid that plow in the prairie, we've lost half to all of that rich topsoil. And we've moved into replacing that loss with chemicals and more fossil fuel and more equipment. But these aren't sustainable practices. And right now, it's up to us to realize that we can be productive, but we have to follow Mother Nature's lead in how we farm. And to the credit of the universities and government, and some of them people are catching on. We have NRCS that's been
Mm,
very helpful to us. We've got great researchers at our institutions. But like Iowa State, where I've actually gotten most of my information on how to farm in a more regenerative manner, they don't apply those practices to their own 14,000 acres of farmland. So it just sends a very
mm,
confusing message to me as a farmer. But again, the good news is a growing number of farmers are learning that we can regenerate and protect our resources and be productive. And that should be encouraging because, a lot of the arguments for the modern production practices we have are we have to feed 9 billion people by 2050. But we can't feed 9 billion people without soil, and we can't take care of 9 billion people with polluted water. So this is why I think the stewardship aspect is so important if we're going to have a balance and actually have an abundant future.
mm. So something else that you said really piques our interest. What do you mean when you say that agriculture is both an art and a science?
Well, I think that probably goes back a little bit to where I talked about technology and that just because you can doesn't always mean you should.
Mm,
Okay, so specifically, I raise cattle, which is considered animal science. But we didn't change the name to animal science until sometime in the late 50s or early 60s. We used to call it animal husbandry. And animal husbandry taught us to understand that an animal has rights, has the right to express their natural instincts. So we learned to care for our animals by letting them express those natural instincts to keep their stress down, to make their immune system stronger. So, with my cows, it's to be grazing on pasture as long as possible instead of in lots. With chickens, it's to be able to scratch in the dirt, or pigs, it's to be able to root in the mud. Um,
mm,
Antibiotics and improved ventilation systems and all these different practices have allowed us to confine livestock. And it's very productive, but it has its share of negative unintended consequences in terms of its impact on our water, the concentration, and its impact on the animals. We think about when bird flu went through Iowa 2 years ago, they literally were having entire barns full of chickens were dying from that because of their stress and because of that concentration. So all of a
mm,
sudden, that concentration becomes a threat to our food system. But I guess to me, and I keep admiring the painting behind you. It's art is how it makes you feel, and if we look at something or we touch something or we smell something or taste something and it doesn't feel good, I think it's okay to question that. And what I've found on my farm is that when we develop a riparian area or restore a wildlife habitat or restore a bit of prairie, and doing that in a way that still maintains our production, there's a tremendous satisfaction of this feels good that comes with it. And now what we're finding out is I can also show that I can actually be more productive while addressing those things I was concerned about. By restoring a prairie remnant on a piece of land that technology has now shown me isn't as productive, I actually increase my return on investment.
mm,
By protecting a wetland, I do the socially responsible thing by protecting your water downstream and making something good for my farm. And I think the other part is, you know, insects and pollinators and animals, we're all part of this thing together. I don't know what happens if we take a bee out of production or if it goes extinct, if that will lead to less production. I know that we need bees. So it seems like it makes sense to do things to make sure that we can all get along. I have kind of a corny example, but when I restore one of these areas, especially the wetlands are my favorite. If I can sit on the tailgate of my pickup and drink a glass of wine and feel good looking at it, and then want a second glass, I know I've done something right. But if I'm in a part of my farm where I don't want to sit on the tailgate of my pickup and have a glass of wine, I need to work on that.
Sounds like satisfaction is very important to you. That what you're doing is making a difference. So we look forward to this. This is a rich topic, and one thing that I appreciate about our DSM Discovery Group is that our people will have an opportunity to engage these issues and discuss them and apply them together in our breakout groups. So I'm really looking forward to hear the interactions around these important concepts. Well, do you have anything else that you want to add, Seth?
I'm really looking forward to meeting the group, and that for all of us just to realize that our food system really touches all of us in some way. And I really believe together we can build something very sustainable and just. And I really look forward to sharing my experiences and learning more from others as well.
This will be a great meeting and a great topic. So again, thank you. And so for those of you that are a regular part of our DSM Discovery Group, as you know, the invitation will go out on the 1st of the month, and so be watching for that. For those of you that are not part, or you've just learned about our group through this conversation, at the end of our video, you will see a card that gives you contact information for how to get on our invitation list. You can also look on Facebook, search for us at the DSM Discovery Group, join our group, and continue the conversation between meetings, and also stay up to date on meetings and topics and events, and also contributions from some of the other members. And so we thank our guest, Seth. Looking forward to having you on the 21st.
Thank you.